Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive space station through the viewport of his ship. The Galactic Council's headquarters looked like a crystal flower blooming in the darkness of space. It was beautiful, but Jake felt uneasy looking at it. Something about the perfect design made him think of a trap. "Sir, we're receiving docking instructions," said Amanda Rivers from her communication station. She was the best language expert Earth had, speaking 17 different alien tongues. Even she sounded nervous. "Take us in slowly, Tony," Jake ordered his chief engineer. Tony Blake had spent months making their ship meet Council safety rules. Every wire and bolt had been checked and rechecked. The Council was very particular about such things. Ambassador Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge wearing her best diplomatic uniform. She carried a briefcase containing Earth's formal application to join the Galactic Council. After 2 years of talks, this meeting would decide humanity's future among the stars. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled, but her eyes showed worry. "Ready as I'll ever be. This is what we've worked toward since we first left our solar system." The docking process took an hour. Council protocols demanded exact positioning and multiple safety checks. Jake watched as alien ships of all shapes and sizes moved around the station like schools of fish. Some looked like metal trees, others like floating bubbles of light. Humanity's ship seemed plain and simple compared to these ancient designs. Delegation of council guards met them at the airlock. The guards were tall, thin creatures with blue skin and forearms. They wore armor that seemed to be made of living metal. They spoke in perfectly pronounced English, though their voices sounded like music played through water. "Welcome, humans. You will follow designated paths only. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not make sudden movements." Jake bit back a sharp reply. These were supposed to be potential allies, not prison wardens. The council chamber was enormous. 5 different species sat on raised platforms arranged in a circle. At the center was a simple white chair where Lisa would sit. The whole setup made Jake think of a trial more than a diplomatic meeting. The Vorthic representative was a creature that looked like a walking crystal formation. Light moved through its body in complex patterns. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Council Speaker Seth Kala. We have reviewed your application. Humans. Your species shows promise, but also concerning traits." Lisa took her seat with dignity. "Thank you for this opportunity, Speaker. Earth is eager to contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." "Peace requires order," said another voice. This came from the Kethmori representative, an insect-like being the size of a small car. Its multiple eyes never stopped moving. "Your species shows dangerous independence." The third speaker was even stranger. The Etherian looked like a cloud of glowing gas, held together by some invisible force. When it communicated, thoughts appeared, directly in their minds rather than as spoken words. Humans change too quickly. Adaptation without guidance leads to chaos. The plant-like Sylvani representative rustled its leaves in what might have been agreement. Its voice sounded like wind through trees. Growth must be controlled. Wild growth destroys the garden. The final council member was the most unsettling. The Nexus representative appeared to be a collection of metal parts that constantly rearranged themselves into new configurations. When it spoke, the voice was perfectly human, which somehow made it worse. Analysis of human behavior indicates 73.6% probability of disruption to established order. Containment protocols are recommended. Speaker Zethkala gestured with one crystalline arm. A holographic document appeared in the air between them. "These are the compliance protocols. Accept these terms and humanity will be welcomed into galactic civilization." Lisa read through the floating text, her face growing pale. The demands were harsh beyond anything Earth had expected. Humanity would have to surrender all artificial intelligence research. Their space fleet would be limited to small patrol ships only. Council monitors would be stationed in every human system. Worst of all, any human technology deemed dangerous by the Council would be confiscated immediately. These terms are quite restrictive, Lisa said carefully. Perhaps we could discuss modifications that would address your concerns while allowing humanity room to grow. There is nothing to discuss, Sethkala replied. These protocols have maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Every species must follow them. Jake stepped forward before he could stop himself. Every species? Or just the ones you conquered? The chamber fell silent. The council representative seemed to freeze in place, as if his words had broken some kind of spell. The Kethmori's mandibles clicked angrily. You dare question the wisdom of the council? I'm questioning the fairness, Jake shot back. Lisa gave him a warning look, but he continued. You want us to give up everything that makes us human. Our curiosity, our independence, our technology. What do we get in return? The privilege of following your orders? You get survival, the Nexus representative said in its unsettling human voice. Species that refuse council guidance do not last long in this galaxy. Lisa stood up slowly. We need time to discuss these terms with our government. This is a decision that affects all of humanity. You have 72 standard hours, Sethkala announced. Return with your answer. Accept the protocols or face isolation from galactic civilization. The Etherians' thoughts pressed into their minds again. Isolation means no trade, no technology sharing, no protection from hostile forces. Choose wisely. As they prepared to leave, Jake couldn't help but notice something. For all their talk of ancient wisdom and galactic peace, the council members seemed afraid. Their perfect order was threatened by something as simple as questions and resistance. Walking back through the station's corridors, Lisa was quiet. Amanda and Tony exchanged worried glances. The meeting had gone worse than anyone had imagined. Ambassador, Jake said quietly, what are you thinking? Lisa looked back at the council chamber one last time. I'm thinking they're not offering us membership. They're offering us slavery with better decorations. As their ship undocked from the station, Jake watched the beautiful crystal structure shrink in the distance. Somewhere in that perfect design, 5 ancient species sat in judgment over the entire galaxy. They had created a system so rigid that even asking questions was seen as a threat. Tony, set course for Earth, Jake ordered. And Amanda, send A. Priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we need to talk to everyone who matters. All of them. What should the message say? Amanda asked. Jake thought about the Council's ultimatum, their fear of human independence, and their casual threats about species that didn't last long. Tell them diplomacy just failed. And tell them to start thinking about alternatives. The ship turned toward home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Galactic Council's perfect order continued its ancient dance among the stars, unaware that something new was coming, something that didn't follow the rules. They had spent 10,000 years creating something human. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the Emergency Council table in the underground command center beneath Washington. The room was packed with the most important people on Earth. Military leaders, scientists, and diplomats all waited for her decision. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on everyone present. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Helen said, looking at the report from the Galactic Council meeting. They want us to become their servants, and if we refuse, they'll cut us off from the rest of the galaxy completely. That's about the size of it, Madam President, said General Paul Davis, his weathered face grim. The Council has been in power for 10,000 years. They have technology we can barely understand and fleets that number in the millions. Admiral Karen Price leaned forward in her chair. She commanded the Space Defense Force and had been preparing for this moment since humanity first reached the stars. General Davis is right about their military strength. But there's something else we need to discuss. She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images of alien worlds and strange spacecraft filled the air above them. 3 months ago, I sent Lieutenant Commander Nick Hansen on a deep reconnaissance mission. His ship Shadowrin has stealth technology the Council doesn't know about. What he found changes everything. Nick Hansen stepped forward from where he had been waiting near the back of the room. He was young for his rank, but his eyes looked much older than his 28 years. The Council isn't what they pretend to be, Nick said simply. They're not keeping the peace. They're keeping everyone else weak. The images changed to show massive industrial complexes on dozens of different worlds. Alien beings worked in conditions that looked like slavery. Other pictures showed beautiful cities where only Council species lived in luxury. Every species that joins the Council gets the same treatment, Nick continued. First they make them, give up their military. Then they take their best technology. Finally, they turn them into workers for Council projects. The Avari build their ships. The Delphini mine dangerous materials in deep space. The Wanderers tried to resist 50 years ago and got exiled to the void between galaxies. Dr. Emma Foster, the head of strategic analysis, stood up next. She was brilliant and had spent her career studying alien behavior patterns. The intelligence confirms what I've suspected for months, Emma said. The Council species are dying. Out, not quickly, but steadily. Their birth rates are falling. They've stopped innovating. They rely more and more on automated systems and slave labor to maintain their empire. She pointed to a chart showing population data. The Vorthik haven't had a natural birth in over 200 years. They extend their lives through technology, but they're essentially immortal beings who have stopped growing as a species. The Kethmori queen hasn't laid eggs in decades. The Etherians are losing cohesion, literally falling apart. What about the machines? Asked General Davis. The Nexus Collective. They're the worst off, Emma replied. Their central processing cores are thousands of years old. They've been copying the same basic programs for centuries without real advancement. They're like a computer that's been running so long it's forgotten how to learn new things. Ben Wright, the chief technology officer, cleared his throat. He had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he looked excited in the way that made other people nervous. That's why they're so afraid of us, Ben said. We represent everything they've lost. We innovate constantly. We adapt to new situations. We ask questions they stopped asking millennia ago. They don't want to control us because we're dangerous to other species. They want to control us because we're dangerous to them. President Carter rubbed her temples. The situation was even worse than she had imagined. So what are options? We could accept their terms, General Davis said reluctantly. Buy ourselves time to build up our strength. Maybe in a few hundred years, we'd be ready to challenge them. By then, we'd be just like all the others, Admiral Price said firmly. Broken down, dependent, and forgotten. They're not offering us a path to power. They're offering us a comfortable prison. Then what do you suggest? Helen asked Karen Price. Activated a new display showing Earth's defensive capabilities. We can't fight them head on. That would be suicide. But we don't have to fight them directly. She showed images of Council supply lines, communication networks, and administrative centers scattered across hundreds of star systems. Their strength comes from order and control. They've built a system so complex that it requires perfect coordination to function. But complex systems are fragile. They break when you introduce chaos. You're talking about guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale, Emma said, understanding immediately. Exactly. We don't attack their main fleets. We go after their foundation. We free the enslaved species. We disrupt their supply chains. We introduce so much chaos into their perfect system that it starts to collapse under its own weight. Ben. Wright was practically bouncing with excitement. I've been working on some new technologies. Quantum fold communication that they can't intercept. Stealth systems that can hide entire fleets. Weapons that can disable ships without destroying them. If we're going to cause chaos, we need to be smart about it. This is incredibly dangerous, General Davis warned. If we fail, they could destroy Earth completely. If we do nothing, they'll destroy us slowly, Admiral Price replied. At least this way we go down fighting. Nick Hansen spoke up again. There's something else. During my reconnaissance, I made contact with some of the resistance groups. The Avari have been planning uprisings for years. The Delphini have sabotaged Council mining operations before. Even some of the Wanderer fleet want to come back and fight. We wouldn't be alone. President Carter looked around the room at the Phi. Faces of humanity's best and brightest. Every person there understood what they were discussing. Open rebellion against a power that had ruled the galaxy since before human civilization began. How long would we have to prepare? She asked. The Council expects an answer in 72 hours, Admiral Price said. But we could buy more time by pretending to consider their offer. Say we need to consult with various Earth governments. That might give us a few weeks. And in those weeks, we start the chaos, Karen said simply. We contact every resistance group Nick found. We begin distributing our new technology to species that can use it. We start showing the galaxy that the Council isn't as powerful as they pretend to be. Dr. Foster pulled up a star map showing Council territory. The key is coordination. If we hit them in enough places at once, they won't be able to respond effectively. Their command structure is too rigid to handle multiple simultaneous crises. President Carter stood up slowly. Everyone in the room fell silent, waiting for her. Decision. The choice she made in the next few seconds would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community as servants or enemies. I've been president for 6 years, Helen said quietly. I've made a lot of difficult decisions. But this one is actually easy. She looked directly at Admiral Price. How soon can you have teams ready to make contact with these resistance groups? Karen smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Give me 48 hours. You have them. General Davis, begin preparing our defensive systems. If this goes wrong, they'll come for Earth first. Ben Wright, I want every piece of experimental technology you have ready for field testing. Dr. Foster, start analyzing Council weaknesses. Find me every crack in their perfect system. She turned to face the entire room. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity is about to declare war on the oldest empire in the galaxy. They think we're primitives who will bow down to their superior wisdom. Let's show them what happens when you back humans into a corner. The meeting broke up as people hurried to their assigned tasks. President Carter remained standing at the head of the table, looking at the images of alien worlds still floating in the holographic display. In 72 hours, humanity would give the Galactic Council their answer. It wouldn't be the answer the Council expected. It would be the beginning of chaos. Captain Lara Bell's science ship Discovery drifted silently through space near Krathen Prime. The planet below looked peaceful from orbit, but Lavra knew better. Down on the surface, millions of bird-like Avari worked in factories building ships. For the Galactic Council, they had been slaves for over 300 years. Are you sure this will work? Asked Dr. Sam Miller, the ship's chief scientist. He adjusted the holographic disguise projector one more time. The device made them look like a Council inspection team. It has to work, Lavra replied. Intelligence says the Avari have been planning something for years. They just need someone to give them the push. The Discovery approached the main spaceport, using false identification codes that Ben Wright's team had created. The codes were perfect copies of real Council authorizations. To any scanner, they looked like legitimate inspectors. 2 hours later, Lara and her team walked through the factory, floors wearing holographic disguises that made them appear as tall, blue-skinned council supervisors. The real Avari workers moved around them like colorful birds, their feathers dulled by years of captivity. Lara found her target near the main assembly line. Kretak was an Avari engineer who had been secretly organizing resistance cells. According to Nick Hansen's intelligence, he was ready to act if given the right opportunity. Worker designation 4471, Lara said in the formal tone Council supervisors used. Report to Inspection Chamber 7 for equipment review. Kretak's large eyes showed surprise, but he followed without question. In the privacy of the inspection chamber, Lara deactivated her disguise. Kretak nearly fell backward when a human appeared where a council supervisor had been standing. My name is Captain Lavra Bell. I represent the human government. We're here to help you fight back. For a long moment, Kretak just stared. Then his beak opened in what Lavra hoped was amazement rather than fear. Humans. We heard stories. The species that refused council membership. The stories are true. We rejected their offer, and now we're offering something different. Freedom. But only if you want to fight for it. Lavra placed a small device on the table between them. It looked like a simple metal cube, but it contained quantum communication technology that could reach across the galaxy instantly. This can connect you with resistance groups on 17 different Avari worlds. Coordinate with them. Strike at the same time. We'll provide technical support and weapons. Kretak picked up the device with trembling claws. Why? Why would humans help us? Because enslaving entire species is wrong. And because when the Council comes for us, we'll need allies. While Lavra was making contact with the Avari, Major Alex Turner was conducting a very different kind of mission. His special operations team had infiltrated a deep space mining station, where the Delphini extracted rare minerals under impossible conditions. The Delphini were aquatic beings who could survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. The Council used this ability to force them into mining asteroids and comets that would kill other species. Turner watched through his helmet display as Delphini workers used primitive tools to chip valuable crystals from a comet's surface. This is insane, muttered Sergeant Lucy Ford over the comb. They're working in hard vacuum with nothing but breathing masks. Council efficiency, Turner replied grimly. Why use expensive equipment when you can use disposable workers? Turner's team had spent weeks preparing for this moment. They carried plasma cutters designed to look like mining equipment, void suits that could protect the Delphini workers, and most importantly, evidence of what was really happening across the galaxy. Operation began when Turner approached the lead Delphini supervisor during a shift change. Using a translation device, he explained who he was and why he was there. The supervisor, a scarred veteran named Polmer, listened with growing amazement. You offer us protection? Weapons? Freedom? We offer you the chance to fight back. The choice is yours. Polmer looked at his workers, then at the human weapons, then back at Turner. We choose freedom. Within hours, Delphini workers across the mining station were using human plasma cutters to sabotage Council equipment. They moved through the asteroid field like schools of fish, disabling mining robots and destroying communication arrays. By the time Council supervisors realized what was happening, the entire operation was in chaos. The real breakthrough came when Commander Rachel Stone's intelligence team made contact with the Wanderer fleet. These were ships belonging to dozens of different species that had tried to resist Council rule in the past. They had been hiding in the dark space between galaxies for 50 years, surviving on salvaged equipment and determination. Captain Gary Mills commanded the stealth carrier Nightfall as it approached the Wanderer fleet's secret base. The base was built inside a massive asteroid that drifted in the cosmic void, invisible to Council sensors. Unknown vessel, identify yourself immediately, came the challenge over the comms. This is Captain Gary Mills of the Earth vessel Nightfall. We're here to talk about going home. The response took several minutes. When it came, the voice sounded stunned. Earth vessel? The humans who rejected Council membership? That's us. And we have a proposal for you. Gary found himself sitting across from representatives of 12 different species in the asteroid base's main meeting chamber. Some were refugees from the original Wanderer Rebellion. Others were newer arrivals who had tried to resist Council rule and failed. The meeting chamber was a mixture of technologies and architectural styles from across the galaxy. Each species had contributed something to the common space, creating a unique blend of cultures that would have been impossible under Council rule. You want us to return to Council space, said Viltar, a reptilian being whose species had lost their homeworld to Council restructuring decades ago. That means war. War is coming whether we want it or not, Gary replied. The Council won't let humanity exist independently, and they won't let you stay hidden forever. The question is whether we fight separately and lose, or fight together and win. He activated a holographic display showing the current state of Council territory. Red markers indicated where Avari uprisings had begun. Blue markers showed Delphini sabotage operations. Yellow markers indicated other resistance activities that had started across dozens of worlds. This is just the beginning, Gary explained. Human intelligence teams are making contact with every suppressed species we can find. We're providing them with weapons, communication equipment, and most importantly, hope. An insectoid representative named Clichter spoke up. The Council will respond with force. They always do. Let them, Gary said. Their strength comes from being able to concentrate their forces against one enemy at a time. But what happens when they're fighting enemies on 100 different fronts? The Wanderer fleet representatives looked at each other. For 50 years, they had dreamed of returning home. Now humans were offering them that chance. Meanwhile, back in Council space, the chaos was spreading faster than anyone had expected. On Avari worlds, workers had stopped producing ships and started building weapons instead. In the asteroid mining fields, Delphini saboteurs destroyed millions of credits worth of equipment every day. But the real damage was happening to the Council's communication network. Human cyber warfare specialists had identified a critical weakness in the 10,000-year-old system. The Council's computers were so ancient and complex that they couldn't adapt to new types of attacks. Dr. Emma Foster coordinated the cyber warfare campaign from a hidden base in Earth's asteroid belt. Her team had discovered that the Council's entire communication system relied on recursive code loops that had been running for millennia without change. It's like a house of cards, Emma explained to her team. Touch the right piece, and the whole thing comes down. The attacks began subtly. False reports that made Council fleets respond to threats that didn't exist. Communication delays that left commanders without orders at critical moments. Navigation errors that sent supply ships to the wrong systems. Within weeks, the Council's perfect order was becoming imperfect chaos. Reports flooded in from across their territory of uprisings, sabotage, and system failures. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council was losing control. Council Speaker Zeeth Kala stood in the emergency session chamber, watching reports stream in from hundreds of worlds. The crystal being's light patterns showed confusion and growing anger. How did this happen? Zethkala demanded. How did primitives who barely know space travel coordinate attacks across our entire territory? The Kethmori representative clicked its mandibles nervously. Intelligence suggests human involvement in all incidents. They appear to have made contact with numerous resistance groups. Impossible. Our surveillance networks monitor all communications. Not these communications, the Nexus Collective replied. Humans appear to have developed quantum fold technology beyond our current capabilities. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they didn't understand. An enemy that fought not with superior technology or overwhelming force, but with something they had forgotten existed. The power of chaos to destroy order. And humanity was just getting started. The revelation that changed everything came from an unlikely source. Dr. Sam Miller, working aboard Captain Lara Bell's ship Discovery, had been analyzing captured Council data when he made the discovery that would shake the galaxy to its core. "Captain, you need to see this immediately," Sam called out. His voice filled with excitement and horror. Laura rushed to his station where holographic displays showed massive underground vaults on Council worlds. The images revealed storage facilities, larger than cities, filled with technology from hundreds of different species. "What am I looking at?" Lara asked. "The preservation vaults. The Council has been stealing the best technology from every species. They've conquered for 10,000 years. Energy weapons that could power entire star systems. Medical devices that could cure any disease. Transportation systems that could cross the galaxy in minutes. They've been hiding it all. The information spread through the human communication network like wildfire. Within hours, every resistance group in the galaxy knew the truth. The Council hadn't just been suppressing technological advancement. They had been actively stealing it and locking it away. Captain Susan Brooks received the intelligence while coordinating a joint human-Avari operation near the Kepler system. Her task force included ships from 6 different species, all working together using hybrid technology that combined Council science with human innovation. "This changes everything," Susan told her mixed crew. "We're not just fighting for freedom anymore. We're fighting to reclaim thousands of years of stolen progress." The decision was unanimous. The task force would attack the primary Council communication hub and broadcast evidence of the preservation vaults to every world in the galaxy. The assault began at dawn on the industrial world of Nexus 7. The Council had built their main communication center there because they believed it was perfectly defended. Massive energy shields protected the facility, and automated defense systems could destroy entire fleets. But the attackers weren't using traditional tactics. Avari engineers had modified human stealth technology to create ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Delphini demolition experts used their natural ability to work in vacuum to place charges in impossible locations. Human cyber warfare specialists turned the facility's own defenses against each other. "Broadcasting in 3 minutes," announced Lieutenant Pete Rogers from the captured communications center. Around him, alien technicians worked frantically to override Council security systems. The broadcast that followed reached every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. Images of the preservation vaults filled screens across millions of systems. Species that had been told their ancestors were primitive saw technology that surpassed anything the Council openly used. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On the crystalline worlds of the Vorthic, younger generations who had been kept ignorant of their true heritage rose up against their elders. In the gas clouds where the Etherians lived, separated communities that had been isolated for centuries began communicating for the first time in millennia. Council Speaker Zethkala watched the chaos unfold from the Council's ancient capital on Nexus Prime. The crystal being's light patterns showed panic as reports flooded in from every corner of their territory. "Martial law," Zethkala commanded. "Deploy all enforcement. fleets, crush these rebellions before they spread further. But it was already too late. The Kethmori military commander stood before the council with news that would have been unthinkable just months before. "Speaker, we cannot comply. Half our hive fleets have joined the rebellion. The workers refuse to fight against their own liberation." Even the machine collective of the Nexus was fragmenting. Individual processing units were breaking away from the central command, choosing to think independently for the first time in thousands of years. The Council's response came in the form of their most powerful remaining fleet, led by the massive Dreadnought Eternal Order. The ship was a relic from the early days of Council rule, built to suppress entire star systems. Its weapons could crack planets, and its shields could withstand the energy output of a small star. Admiral Karen Price watched the Council fleet approach from the bridge of her flagship Catalyst. The human vessel looked small compared to the ancient dreadnought, but appearances could be deceiving. "They're trying to end this with one decisive battle," Karen told her crew. "Show them why that's a mistake." The Catalyst had been built using technology from every species in the rebellion. Its hull was made from vorthic crystal metal that could absorb and redirect energy. Its engines used Etherian dimensional folding techniques to move faster than light itself. Its weapons combined human innovation with 10,000 years of galactic science. But the real surprise wasn't the ship's technology. It was the fleet that emerged from hyperspace around it. Hundreds of vessels appeared, representing dozens of different species. Avari fighters moved like flocks of birds through space. Delphini assault ships used gravity weapons that could crush enemy vessels. Ships from the Wanderer fleet brought weapons and tactics that the Council had never seen before. The battle that followed lasted only minutes. The Council fleet, designed to fight traditional enemies using predictable tactics, couldn't adapt to the chaos of the combined assault. The Eternal Order's mighty shields failed when attacked by weapons that operated on principles the Council had forgotten existed. But Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a ship in the rebel fleet, made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of destroying the surrendering Council vessels, he opened communication channels. "This is Captain Morrison to all Council ships. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to offer you something your leaders never could. The chance to choose your own future." The message that followed wasn't a demand for surrender. It was an invitation to join something new. Admiral Price had realized something important during the months of warfare. Complete victory would be as dangerous as complete defeat. If the Council's system collapsed entirely, the galaxy would face centuries of chaos and conflict. Different species would fight each other for control, and millions would die in the struggle. "We need controlled chaos," Karen explained to the rebel leaders who had gathered on Nexus Prime after the Council's defeat. "Not the kind that destroys everything, but the kind that prevents any one group from gaining too much power." The solution was something entirely new in galactic history. The Adaptive Governance Compact was a system designed to change and evolve constantly. Leadership rotated between species based on merit and contribution rather than ancient treaties. Technology was shared freely among all members. Most importantly, the system was built to prevent the kind of stagnation that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. "No more 10,000-year empires," said Ambassador Lisa Grant as she signed the founding document. "No more perfect order that crushes innovation. From now on, change is the only constant." The old Council members, faced with the complete collapse of everything they had built, reluctantly agreed to join the new system. They would contribute their knowledge and experience, but they would never again hold absolute power. The ceremony took place in the same chamber where the Yen Council had once demanded humanity's submission. Now representatives from hundreds of species worked together to build something that had never existed before. A truly cooperative galactic civilization. President Helen Carter watched the proceedings from Earth via quantum communication. The planet was no longer isolated or threatened. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or servants, but as the species that had taught the galaxy how to break the rules. So what happens now? Asked Dr. Emma Foster as she watched alien diplomats argue about mining rights and trade agreements. Now we see if chaos can create something better than order ever did, Helen replied. And knowing humans, I'm sure we'll find new and interesting ways to complicate things. The galaxy that emerged from the ashes of the Council's perfect order was louder, messier, and far more dangerous than before. Wars still happened, but they were small conflicts between roughly equal powers rather than massive suppressions of entire species. Technology advanced rapidly as species shared knowledge freely. Art and culture flourished as civilizations were free to develop their own unique paths. Jake Morrison's final log entry, recorded from his new ship as he explored regions of space that had been forbidden under Council rule, captured the spirit of the new age. Mission report: we set out to join galactic civilization and ended up rebuilding it completely. Diplomacy failed. We threw the galaxy into chaos, and somehow everyone is better off for it. Turns out the universe needed humans, not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we're the ones crazy enough to believe that sometimes you have to break everything to build something better. The entry concluded with words that would become humanity's unofficial motto among the stars. When in doubt, add more chaos. It usually works out somehow. And against all odds, it did.